born ready. Not really. Not really. Let's be real.
Okay. Hey everyone, it's Kim, the Millennials Mom, here to help you master your home and navigate your life. And I'm so excited because I have my friend Bernie Ooley here today.
Hello.
And I've asked her here to see if she would be willing to share some of her experiences on how she's navigated her life for the last couple decades.
Okay, let's just take care of this right now. I am 62 and proud of it.
I'm so glad because that means she has, what does that have, 5 decades or 6 decades?
It's 6 decades.
6 decades of wisdom to share with you guys today. So I want to tell you about Bernie a little bit. She is absolutely a fascinating woman. She's led a very active and very powerful life. You actually helped start a school that you had a big dream about. I'm reading from my notes here, obviously. You have a brilliant sense of humor.
Oh, thank you.
You look to find fun in everything that you do, and you go hiking in Parkland, yes, as a
At every chance I get.
yeah, and you've traveled the world. So I think you are a great person to come and speak today.
Thank you.
So I want to start with some questions here. The first thing I want to ask you, if you look back over your life, is how did you learn to embrace a full life? Did it come naturally to you? Did you have parents that did it? Was it just a decision that you made to seize life, or where did that come from? Cultivating a life like that.
I think, I grew up actually in a very strict household. I was raised Catholic. I went to parochial school. Yes, I was that little Catholic schoolgirl with her uniform and her book bag, And so very strict household. But I made friends with people who were very adventurous. And I was the last child, of 4. And I think by the time I came along, though, my parents were more like, okay, let's start loosening things up a little bit. And they really allowed me and enabled me to go out and explore life a little bit more, like, join the drill team or go to the World's Fair with the family down the street, when they went for a summer vacation. I got to go to the Super Bowl and things like that. And so they really did empower me and enable me to start exploring life and developing a sense of adventure. But then, as you get older, you go to college and you need to get a job and that sort of thing. And I got married at the age of 24. And so you take on a lot of responsibility and that sort of thing. And I was also very involved in my church. My church became really my world. Everything was about, gosh, I want to get into full-time ministry. I really want to pursue that with excellence. And so all of those involvements and activities really were the focus of my life and my energy. And I got married, like I said, at 24. And then it was sometime a few years into the marriage, my husband did something brilliant. Okay. He went out and he bought us bicycles. Just, these nice road bikes. And I'm like,
not the little cruisers?
No, this was like the multi-speed, like serious bikes. And he goes, I've decided to invest in the marriage and we need to do this. I'm like, what? Okay. So we didn't have like any money. Okay. And so this was something that we could do together. And it opened up a whole world for me of getting outdoors and exploring and being active physically. And you know what? It was an affordable thing to do as a young couple. We didn't have a ton of money to dine out every night or go to fabulous shows and clubbing and things like that. So it really was a key. And then from then on, he and I just started looking around our area, and we happen to live in beautiful Northern California, which is replete with gorgeous trails and mountains and lakes and all that. So it was a very accessible, affordable thing we could do, and we just launched into this love of nature. And then it expanded to where we started bringing others along with us. And now I have a Facebook group called I Love Life Adventures. It's got over 600 people in it, and I've led a lot of kayak. Yes, well, check that out. But
I want to be part of that group. You know what? I will link it below. Is it open or is it a private group?
Well, I'll open it up for you for a minute. But it's more like, now it's more informational than invitational, because I used to do all these hikes and stuff, and 50 people were showing up for a hike, and it kind of wasn't fun anymore. But So now I just try to get the information out there into the community of, man, what you can do in our area. Like, are the Rangers doing something, or there was this community event, and just really fostering that love for where we live and for connecting with people through that interest of exploring the great outdoors. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. That's like,
and it seems like a lot of stuff that you did was pretty affordable.
Oh,
It's
it
not
is.
Like do you have a year pass at the parks or whatever?
well, now that we're 62, we have a lifetime pass. So
There you go.
you gotta look for those senior discounts.
There's
It's
a
really
senior,
awesome.
but you know what? I turn 55 next year, and I'm so
Can't
excited.
believe it! No,
because
say it to so.
No, I will get 10% off at Goodwill, and Applebee's gives a discount because I
See.
would now be considered a senior. It's very exciting.
This is what I'm really excited about, is getting carded for a senior discount. Let's make that happen.
We were at your birthday party, and I said it's so exciting because I sent her a whole email list of every discount.
This is a good friend right here.
It's like,
Yeah.
you can get discounts everywhere.
See,
So
every season of life,
Right.
there's new
So,
adventures.
the ministry school that Bernie started was to help train and deploy people that want to be active in their faith. And the school actually, right now, I think they run about 3,000 people a year that come through the school. I would say over 60% of them, when I looked around, were millennial age.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
were all young. And
Yeah.
40% of them are international students
Yeah.
from like 50 plus countries.
Sweet.
So it's really had an impact on the world. And actually, in my opinion, you've actually had the most impact on millennials of anybody I personally know.
Wow,
Like,
thank
thousands
you.
and thousands of them. So you're
Thank
talking
you.
about a legend here.
Oh.
But the interest,
I'll pay her later. I think she said.
That's right. Just pay me in brownies and I'm good. But here's the thing. She started, I'll never forget this story, but she actually had a dream about having this school, and it's turned into this powerhouse experience for so many people all over the world. So tell me about the dream that you had and how it got breathed into life and how long it took and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. And what I'm going to share with you, you can apply to any dream that you have. This isn't just about ministry or starting a school, obviously, but I went to a ministry school back in ancient times. It was 1980, and it was before I was married. I think I was like 23.
What did your hair look like back then?
I did do
Wings.
perms. I did perm, but I never
Okay.
did like the, up to here stratosphere business. And I was concerned about the ozone layer, even then I didn't want to use that much hairspray. It was so much work in the 80s. I hope it does not make a huge comeback, just for your sake.
I saw a meme recently and it said, tease it to Jesus.
Tease it to me. The higher the hair, the closer to God. Right? Oh my gosh, hilarious. Anyway, so I go to this ministry school. It's like a 1-year intensive, and some like leaders, church leaders that I really admired, and I loved it so much. It rocked my world, and I came back to Little Redding, California. I had gone to school in Tulsa. I came back to Redding with a vision of, man, wouldn't it be cool to have something like that, a ministry school, just very practical, maybe a 1 or 2 year intensive kind of, not a 4-year, seminary experience, but just really practical, intense training program in Redding. And this is so funny. I would share that idea with people. I'm talking like some church people, and I'd say, hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And they would look at me like I was nuts. I have like
Famous last.
leaders look at me and go, oh, he's so cute, and I had one person super close to me look me dead in the eye and go, there will never be a school like that in Redding. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I learned in that moment, man, there are some things you need to, I'll use a Bible term here, called ponder it in your heart. Keep it close and nurture it, and not just share with everybody.
Yeah, that's
because
a good point.
people, a lot of people may not get it, and they're going to try and talk you out of it. And it's just because they don't understand. And it's not necessarily that they're terrible people. It's just they don't get it. Yeah. And so I learned that there are some people, very few people, but a few trusted people that had earned the right to speak into my life. They were real with me. They had wisdom. I trusted them. They believed in me. And they could give it to me straight. Like, if I was thinking some stuff or trying some stuff that really wasn't going to, be a good idea, they would be real with me and in love, very lovingly give me some advice. But they would also support me. You know, they would really encourage the good stuff. So there were a few people I could share with, and
which is a good point, because it's really important in your life to find that inner circle, that circle of A, not B friends in the zebra, but that circle of A that will always tell you the truth, will speak truth into your life. And it takes a while to find those. You don't find them all at once, but when you find people you trust, you hold on to them. Okay.
So then,
Sorry.
well, no, that's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah. And so then, okay, I've got this vision, you know, this dream, and it's amazing. Like when you do get like a dream or a vision for your life, that the next day necessarily people aren't knocking on your door saying, hey, you want to go do that? You know, it's a process. There's a journey, and there's a journey for a reason. It's a couple reasons, actually. I found that, man, things have to get in place. You know, it was a big vision, and things had to get in place. The right people had to be on the bus, so to speak, and in place. And also, I had to be ready.
Right.
You know, I may have this vision, this dream of doing X, but it's like I am not ready right at that moment as a 24-year-old that just graduated to step into that level that I had seen in my vision. So, you know, you just do life, right? You get a job. And I'd gone to ministry school, but again, people weren't asking me to preach or, you know, write books or do TV or whatever full time the moment I graduated. So it was like I had to go freaking pay the bills. And, you know, I'm working at stores, retail, where I'm doing admin stuff and all that. And you're in the midst of what looks like a dead-end job. And you're thinking, how on earth, man, my vision seems to be getting further and further away. I'm not getting closer to it. But I'll tell you, the crazy thing is, some years later, I was able to look back and see how every one of those quote-unquote dead-end jobs prepared me for what was next. Because by the time I got, and you'd never believe this now, but by the time I got out of that ministry school and I came back home to Reading, I was such an introvert. I mean, I could not speak in front of people. I was like, you know, at a party, I'm going to be in the corner. I'm that chick, you know.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
So that really wasn't going to work for what I had envisioned, you know. And so I realized later, like when I'm working at this, I was working at a hardware store and stuff like that. I was the one who was supposed to greet people. That was my job. Hi, can I help you? How are you doing today? Welcome. I had to get out of myself and become more of an extrovert and really learn how to connect with people and things like that. And then doing admin work, I had to learn to be organized and disciplined and, you know, just stay on top of stuff and be a planner and a strategist. All of that came into play. So nothing was lost. And I'm not saying, man, just stay in a dead-end job forever, but it was like I was learning to value what I'm doing in that season, that maybe there is a higher purpose and maybe I can learn. And maybe there are opportunities in every season of my life that I'm not going to have later. You know, and I tell students, man, you know, so many of us, we just want to project and go, man, when I graduate, then it'll happen, or when I get married, or when I move to such and such a place, or I get that job, then I'm really going to start living. I'm like, are you kidding? You are so living now, and you're going to look back on these days as be like, man, there were people I knew and opportunities I had then that I don't have now. And there will be opportunities and people in that season that you don't have now, but it's learning to look around and really be grateful for where you're at.
And don't you feel sometimes, like for me, as I look back, the older I get, sometimes I look back at those younger years and I think they seemed so hard at that time and so complicated, but yet you look back after years and years, decades too, and you look back and you go, actually those were simpler times.
So simple.
But the more that you push through things, the stronger you get. Just like working a muscle. When you look at life experience as a muscle, and the more you work at it, the stronger that you get, that you actually look back at those times and you go, those were neat times and I grew a lot. And you actually learn to appreciate them down the road, even though you're in them now and it seems like a dead end. So
it's all good, you know, there's a path for you and it's all part of the plan, that sort of thing. So long story short, I, you know, kept plugging away, just, you know, being responsible and diligent and learning what I could. And though when opportunities would present themselves, even if they seemed really small, I would take them if it at all fed into my dream and my destiny. I'd be asked, you know, in my case, to maybe teach a little Sunday school class or, you know, speak to a group of ladies or do whatever, and I would take it. and I would learn from that experience, and I would develop. And so I could not have scripted the way my dream came to pass, because I'm just going along day after day, foot in front of the other, doing my thing. And we wound up moving from this little church we were in. The pastor, I was like on staff. My husband was leading the music. We were board members. I mean, we were really involved. And the pastor one day, no kidding, gets up and says, "Hey, I'm shutting down the church. I'm going to go on the mission field full time, and I recommend that y'all go to this church over here, this big church here in town." And my husband and I are looking at each other going, "Well, I guess we're going over there." I mean, what? So we didn't, make that happen. That just kind of happened to us. But we wound up moving over to that big church, and I get hired right away. My husband's now doing music for like 10 times the amount of people he was doing before. We got grandfathered into all these leadership positions. So, I mean, I'm in this church, and they wind up starting the school that I had dreamed about, 17 years prior. It was crazy. I mean, I had gone on a prayer journey one day, driving around town in my little car, my little Geostorm, and just praying about the city, and asking for God's blessings and stuff. And he showed me this piece of land, and he said, just in my heart, you hear this still small voice, and he says, "That's where the school's going to be someday." And I was like, "What? It's just a field of stumps and trees and weeds and all that." Well, come to find, that was like in 1989. And then a couple years later, I'm going to this church, this bigger one, because, my pastor said, "Hey, we're going to go on the mission field, so you go over to this other one." And I'm on staff at that big church. I find out that church I was now working at owned that piece of land, and they were building on it. Like, yeah, like I knew that, no. And so then I'm on staff there. We move into the new building, and the pastor walks up to me one day, out of the blue, kid you not, I'd never told, because I'm keeping it close. I'm just, feeding my dream, like carrying a baby. You're just kind of carrying that and feeding the baby. And I wasn't telling a bunch of people my vision. The pastor walks up to me out of the blue and says, "Hey, you know what? We're going to start a school, and we want you to help."
Amazing.
Okay, so it was from just like, we talk about being faithful, like in every season and doing the stuff, and at the right time, doors you could never open on your own will open for you. It's called favor, okay? And so I was able to help start the school, do research, get it all going, and then I was able to become a teacher. And I did that for 20 years.
Phenomenal teacher.
And thank you. And I just retired. So now I'm in a new season 2, and it's like, ooh, what's next, right?
What discounts do I get?
Yeah, that sort of thing. So anyway, it was just really, keep your vision alive, keep your dream alive, do things that feed it, step into that where you find opportunity, share with those you trust, let them speak into your life, and journal. Man, I would journal a lot about that, and it really helps feed that dream in your heart.
Yeah, I think about, that's really good. I think about just outside of the churches, if some of you guys have this dream to do something like, someday I want to own my own company that does something specific like that's philanthropic, or I love animals and eventually I want to own this big clinic and stuff. You always keep that dream alive, but at the same time value every experience along the way, because if let's say you have an investor that you really want to have invest in your company, they're going to look at you not only as a person, does this person have passion for what they're doing, but do they have enough life experience to carry the load of their dream? And so, like, you had to take 17 years before you were ready to step into a role that would enable you to be qualified to hold that dream and actually nurture it. So just always value every little step of the way, but keep the dream alive, but understand, sometimes it takes longer than you think, but it does.
And when the dream finally manifests, shows up, it may look a little different than you had envisioned. Because like, in my case, it was like the only model I had for what I wanted to do was what I had known. It was the school I'd gone to, and I thought, oh, this will look a lot like that. Well, then as I started working with the other people on the team, it took a very different shape very quickly. And I was kind of discouraged about that at first, and I was like, oh man, maybe this isn't it. And I'm like, oh, wait, after everything that happened, seeing the land and all this, and, the pastor asked me out of the blue. So I stuck with it to see if it wouldn't, what I call bear fruit, like it wouldn't have the goods. And I stayed with it 1 year, and it did. And it started multiplying and doubling every year, and it became extremely effective. And I was like, okay, this is it. It's just looking a little different, and so I'm going to adapt, and that's where all those life experiences really did come in handy, is because sometimes you got to do a lot. You got to be a Swiss Army knife, you got to have to do this and that, especially if you're like starting a company or doing something like that, very ground level. So, and that's beautiful because it gives you, as you move up in leadership, let's say in a corporation or whatever your dream or passion is, it's like it gives you an appreciation for everybody else that is doing different jobs, different assignments in that, group. And it gives you such wisdom, because I'll tell you, there is no teacher life experience, honey.
That's right.
It is, there's a
That's
level
right.
of authority there that comes no other way than living it.
You have, and I love this topic, but you have actually had so many millennials in your life that they keep us so young, don't they?
They do.
They make us feel like we're 35.
Yeah, I convince myself that I'm just one of them.
I know, exactly. But one of the things that I feel like millennials get beat up sometimes, like especially by baby boomers. It's like there's a lot of negatives that's placed on millennials, but I'm passionate about millennials. I love them, and I know you do too. And so what I would love for you to do is, man, tell our audience, what are 3 great things that you love about millennials?
Oh, wow. 3 great things. Well, number one, it's got to be enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You keep us young. You really do. I'm in it for selfish reasons. I know. But it's true. It's like, I will get invited to parties and to go out and do stuff, and I'm like one of the girls, and I love that. And there's such a camaraderie, but really that infusion of enthusiasm and optimism, and I know a lot of millennials do struggle with, worrying about the future, and I understand that, but for the most part, let's face it, time is on your side. And even if you're going through a bad patch, the point is go through it, keep going, time is on your side. And so I love the optimism and the hope and the enthusiasm that really, really helps me, because, as you go through life, you do deal with disappointment and rejection and hurt. It happens to all of us. This isn't a perfect world by any means. And it's easy to get jaded. To go, especially if you're like really a news junkie and all of that, and we're feeding our psyche all of that negativity, and it's real, and we need to be aware of it, absolutely. But when it becomes the final authority in our life, that just this negativity, it's horrid. So you do, as you go through life, you deal with losing people, and that sort of things, maybe not working out exactly as you had hoped,
or even losing friends.
Oh. Yeah, one way or another, losing them. Yeah. And so being with people who are full of, and I'll just say it, idealistic. Yeah. And people can be idealistic and not wise about it. But just having that hope and that enthusiasm is such a shot in the arm. I love that. And I look at that and I go, well, I don't want to lose that. Right. Just because I'm 62 doesn't mean I have to become an old curmudgeon. I want
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, right. No.
Nobody's gonna be.
I'm going to be honest, I felt that a few times. But yeah, there's a better way. So, so I love hanging around millennials for that reason. I love their sense of adventure, openness to new things, which as we get older, we still need to maintain that, or you get really,
amen, sister.
Chronically, arthritis of the mind. And then I love their adaptability.
Oh.
Like, for you guys amaze me in that you can just like throw on a backpack, go to the airport, go somewhere you've never been to, you know what I mean? And I know somebody I can surf on their couch, or I can do this, and this sense of adventure and adaptability, and you can just go with it.
Right.
And granted, I don't want to really sleep on the floor much anymore, but just that sense of, it'll be fine. And I'm out there, and I'm going to have this grand adventure, and I can roll with it.
Right.
I learn a lot from the millennials I hang out with.
I feel like the more, the older we get, the more we fall back on what's worked for us our whole life. And so I can get really rigid sometimes, like this is the way it needs to be done, it has to be planned, And then I hang around with the millennials who are like, it's cool, it'll just be great, it'll happen,
It'll work
and
out.
whatever. And sometimes I catch myself and say, Kim, you need to chill out.
Yes.
And you need to do that.
Yeah.
And it always,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's not always correct, but most of the time it's really good for me. It's like, Kim, just be adaptable and relax and quit putting, you know, your 54-year-old structure into what it is. And I think that's part of the adaptability that's so powerful.
And if it doesn't work out, you have a great story, usually.
How many great stories do we have?
You know, or you have
never-
wisdom now, you know, from that experience, so it's cool.
The best words of advice you were ever given, and by whom?
This is
That
great.
is really hard sometimes to think about because there's so many years of good advice.
Right, and it's like you distill it down, you know, into a couple, and of course you would probably think, well, she's going to quote the Bible, which is full of amazing quotes. By the way, it's the ultimate source of wisdom, I believe. But the funny thing is, if I have to pick two words of advice that help me more than anything, one is a quote from Oscar Wilde, and he said, "Be you, everyone else is taken."
Oh, that's brilliant.
And I love it. And that
That's
just gave me
brilliant.
so much. I was like, dang, that's right. I mean, why should I try to emulate somebody else? It's like I can admire their qualities and learn from them, you know, maybe what to do or what not to do in some cases. But there is no one like me, you know, this compilation of experience and DNA and all of that. And I'm really ripping the world off.
Right.
My friends, my family, my community. I'm ripping the world off by not being authentically myself, embracing. And yeah, I can learn and grow, and there are things I need to work on and change, but loving myself and embracing who I am. So be you. Everybody else is already taken, honey. You know, and then the other.
Wait. Before you, can I add to it?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that I learned that somebody told me one time that has always stuck in my mind is they said the world is crying out for you to step up and be the person that you were created to, unique in your identity.
Amen.
Like people want you, whoever you are, whatever you bring to the world, to really learn what that is and project that out because you were uniquely made and
That's right.
you have something special to add.
You are
Okay.
valuable.
All right, thank you. So give me your second.
Oh, the second one came from Clint Eastwood. And
Go ahead.
it's not,
Nick,
that is a great one I've wanted to use a lot. But when I'm like, no. But
Oh, you're going to offend half the
I know, I'm sorry. No, it's just that moment where you're really
Yeah.
upset.
No,
Okay.
we get it.
It could be a super soaker. All
Yeah.
right.
That's
But
what it was the whole time.
absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
The Clint Eastwood, he was being interviewed on this program called Inside the Actors Studio, and maybe some of you have seen it, and it used to be on Bravo, and it's from the New School in New York. It's an actors, you know, school. And so they would have these great actors come in and they'd interview him, and he said, take what you do very seriously, but never take yourself seriously.
Oh, that's really good.
And from that I learned, wow, okay, so you're dedicated to, you know, what your job or, you know, your vision, your whatever your cause is, that you take very seriously and you pursue it with excellence. But learn to laugh at yourself, to make mistakes and learn from them, you know, and yeah, just have that perspective of I'm going to love myself through this, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to get better, but man, I am going to laugh at myself. So often we treat others better, you know, than we treat ourselves. You know, we'll have more patience for them or whatever, and we really need to turn that towards ourselves and love ourselves, but don't take yourself so seriously. You know, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna learn. It's gonna get better. It really is. So
good. Well, I want to thank you. This has been absolutely amazing.
Sure.
I am going to be doing a part 2 with Bernie where we talk about the subject of curiosity, which I'm very excited about.
Are you curious?
Yes. So we may be in the same outfits. Don't judge.
Please.
But this was the first one that I've actually done on my channel that has to do with navigating life. But most of the stuff that I do is really about creating a sense of home around you and how to actually master that sense of home. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe. You guys all know how to do that. And I really appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.